Our speaker this morning is Alvin Lankford, the Williamson County Chief Appraiser. Scott pointed out to me this morning, this is the third year that Alvin has come and visited with us. He's been with the Williamson County Central Appraisal District since 2000 and is a registered professional appraiser. His professional affiliations include the Board of Tax Professional Examiners, the Texas Association of Appraisal Districts, the Texas Association of Assessing Officers, and the International Association of Assessing Officers. And visiting with Alvin this morning, I pointed out that probably unfortunately for the rest of us, this is a good time for him to be coming because many of us got appraisals where our values went down. And he just asked that we all remember that in future years as the economy starts to recover. So, Alvin,
thank you. Appreciate that. I was wondering if y'all might go through an exercise with me. Rain was mentioned a few times this morning. I was just wondering if y'all wanted to just get up and move this to the parking lot, see if we can just tempt fate today. Rain not the sky. As was mentioned, the values actually of the first time, I guess, in my career, the last 2 to 3 years, they have started to taper off. And I'm not seeing as many daggers pointed at me in the audiences that I've been speaking to because we've actually shown that we do reflect the market even when it goes down. So it is a nicer time than normal for our office, but that does mean interesting times for our taxing units and the fact that they are losing property tax revenues associated with those decreases. So we want to make sure that we remember that the market could turn around, and it looks like it's showing some positive times, and that in the coming years, when the markets do go back up, you do remember the fact that we did reflect these decreases this past 3 years. So I've been with the Appraisal District, I said, almost 11 years now. Chief Appraiser, I started as Chief Appraiser in 2009, so been there for a while, but just recently promoted up to Chief Appraiser. I'm going to go through a little Appraisal District 101. I know everybody's anxious to get to their business today, so just want to talk a little bit about how appraisal districts were formed, those of you who haven't seen this part of it. They were actually formed by a bill called the Hutto bill back in the late 70s, and what this bill did is it took the responsibility of appraising property out of the taxing unit's hands and put it into a centralized appraisal district. It did a few things. One of the things it did is that it separated out the tax rate from the appraisal. They were both together in one office before, and it separated that out. The reason that happened at that time was because there was a lot of conflict in the fact that many of the residential homeowners out there were seeing very depressed values, and many of the commercial property owners were seeing very increased values. And there's a simple philosophy with that. The fact is that the homeowners vote. There's votes out there, and therefore when someone was running for office, a lot of times they would keep the homes very low. And in fact, I've heard stories of every frame house in the county is going to be at $5,000, and every brick house is going to be at $7,000, and every commercial building is going to be at 100% of market value. So they were able to keep their values artificially low because of that. Well, appraisal should be separate. It needs to be a part that is independent of the taxes. It just needs to be reflective of what's going on in the market. And as long as appraisal districts do exactly what we've been seeing this past 3 years, is follow that market no matter what's happening. Not just follow the market up, but when it does go down, we're reflecting market value regardless. And I think as long as you see that out there, you can see that appraisal districts are conforming to the laws in place, and we are following that market as it's represented out there. I've told many people that we're just a mirror reflection of what's happening in the market. If we are not reflecting that, then you deserve a protest, and you deserve to come in and see us, because that is what our job is to reflect that. This is some of that separation I was discussing about how the appraisal districts are formed, and this is the way it is today. Citizens of Williamson County elect our governing bodies. We elect the school boards, the city councils, the county commissioners, etc. And then they turn around and they elect a board of directors for the appraisal district. We're a 5-member board. We have a 5-member board. And those that are on our board have 2 major functions. One of them is to pick the chief appraiser, my position. They appoint the chief appraiser. My responsibilities are to administer the office. I make sure that our appraisal roll gets turned out. I make sure it's reflective of market value. We get that appraisal roll into the hands of the taxing units in July, and then they're able to take and form their tax rates and actually send you tax bills later in the year. The other major function they have is to appoint the appraisal review board. And I don't know how many of you that have protested your property, but when you protest your property, if you disagree with the appraiser after you've had a chance to meet with the appraiser, you have an opportunity to go before the Appraisal Review Board, and they're an independent group of citizens. And when I mean independent, they are. There's an important designation here. It should be almost a break in this line that goes over from the Board of Directors, because the only connection that they have is when they're initially appointed. Once they have been appointed, the only thing that can affect that ARB member is if they have some sort of criminal liability, criminal activity, or something like that, they can be removed. Other than that, their decisions are independent of both the appraisal district and the taxing unit. So they are an independent body to go to and actually hear your case. I wanted to talk a little bit about our website. It's a little unclear on the slide here, but we did change our website this past year. We've been changing it for a number of years to reflect what's going on in our usage. We used a service called Google Analytics, and many of you may have heard of it, but basically it's just an overlay on your website. Nobody can see it, but it counts the number of clicks and number of times that people visit different parts of your website. And we found, this is probably no surprise to us or to you, that most people are going in there and looking at their property. Okay, they're doing property searches. That's about 95% of the hits that we get. Yet where our property search was before was down here on the left-hand menu. It was a little bit difficult to find. And I'll be honest, even when I would go in there, I'd have to remember where it was. And it should be the most prominent thing on our menu, because that's what people do. Moved it up to the top to make it a little bit easier for everybody to see. It's right up here at the top. Click that, you go in and you put in your name or your address, whatever it is you're looking for. It's easy to find. We also rearranged the menu on the left-hand side here to reflect different types of users. If you're a property owner, you want to look at protest procedures or maps of your property, the ag manual, all those are in that property owner section. Then we have a section just general, which is like your tax code and our budget that for the appraisal district is on there. And then we have an entity section, and that is for the taxing units out there. We actually started something new last year. We started putting all of the taxable value reports that we give to the entities on our website. That helps them understand what's going on from the time we send a notice out all the way through our certification. When we give them the roll, they can follow along week by week and get an update to see what they're going to be able to form their budgets from later in the year. So they're not in the dark from the time that notices go out all the way through the end of summer. They actually know what's going on. And that's been real helpful to our entities. Another thing I'll point out on the website is the middle. It's actually a whiteboard that just talks about current events that we have going on at our district and on our website. This is something we're most proud of. These are our webcast videos. If you click over on that left-hand menu, it'll show webcast videos. Click on there. These are really interesting. We started out last year. We were one of the first appraisal districts, if not the first appraisal district in the state to do this. But we concentrated on residential property owners. We wanted to get the word out on how we measure a home. When we go to the field, we want to tell you how we measure it, so what kind of things we're looking at, how we value those homes. There's another video about valuation, how we go through, look at sales, and then adjust the market values of homes. And then the most important one, I think, out there is how you protest your home. I had many, many conversations with people when I was an appraiser and meeting with people on a daily basis about how intimidated they were by the process. And really, it's not that intimidating. You come in, you talk about valuation with your appraiser, and then you go to the appraiser review board and you talk about it there. And they were always amazed at how easy that was or how painless that was. And so we wanted to put a video out there that really explained that whole process. We take you in where you check in the lobby. We have video of that. We have a video in an appraiser's cubicle, so you know exactly what their cubicle looks like, what information they're going to present to you, what information you can present to them. And then we also take you through an ARB hearing. We show you what the appraisal review board hearing is like. It's a group of 3 panel members on that ARB that are in there listening to your case. We wanted to get you through that entire process in a little 10-minute video to show you that it's not that intimidating. If it's something that you really feel like, that you need to protest your value because it's wrong, go through the process. It's there for you. I'll back up one, excuse me. I missed the 3 new videos we added this year. We wanted to continue this transparency. We added a business personal property rendition video out there. If you're a business owner, we send you a rendition every year that goes through how to fill that out. We added also residential homestead video. So when you're filling out your homestead application, this goes through the benefits of it and how to fill it out. And then we also, those of you who are ag property owners that you have agricultural valuation or you're wanting to get agricultural valuation, there's a video on the form itself and some of the benefits associated with the ag valuation. So Take a look at the videos. If you know anybody that's wanting to protest their property or is curious about what we do, these little 10-minute videos will give them a real education on what it is we do at our office. This is a first for us. This year, on our notices were mentioned earlier, we sent out 72,000 notices that are protestable online. So you've got the opportunity not only to protest it in the mail like you had before, or to come see us and turn in your protest, you can actually protest on our website for 72,000 homeowners. Many of those are included in Hutto. What we started with is what I would say are more homogeneous or tract home neighborhoods, ones that we have lots of the same types or same quality level of homes. That way it's a little bit easier to compare between the sales and the subject property. They're able to get online, follow about 6 simple steps, and submit their protest. The biggest benefit, though, of this is they not only can they submit their protest there, but they also receive their sales comparable information back. We send an email that has a link that goes back to the website. You log back in and you can view your sales comparable information. That sales comparable information looks like this when you get it back. You go through and you'll see that on the left-hand side menu, or left-hand side here is the subject property, your property. It has the details of your property, age, it has the size, address, etc. Quality is on there. And then it shows you the comparable sales that we used in valuation of your home that we're showing you. And so what this program will do is it picks homes that are very similar in size to yours, probably within your neighborhood, same age or similar age to your property, and then it makes adjustments to those properties. So if you have a pool on your home and the sale doesn't have a pool, then it's going to add value to that sale to make it like the subject, or vice versa. If the comparable sale has a pool and you don't, it's going to subtract that value out of the sale before it compares to the subject. That's a real simple explanation, but it does much more than that. What we're trying to accomplish is making adjustments to comparable sales, if there are many differences, to make them more like the subject so you can see where the valuation is based on those comparable sales. So you'll get an opportunity through this online protest to be able to see that from your home without ever having to come in and see us. The next type of protest you can do online is equal and uniform. This is the 2 most popular protests we have are my house is over market value, or my house is unequally appraised with my neighbors. This one goes through and actually, instead of using sale prices, it uses appraised prices, what we put on that property, or all the properties that are compared here. It makes very similar adjustments, as I mentioned before, to those comparable properties, and then you'll see indicated values down along the bottom of the grid. It will tell you what the adjustments were to those properties, or the final adjusted value of those properties were, so we can show you that we either are equitable or we're not. All right, one of the things we did in office to help with the efficiency when you do come in the office is we developed a queue, is what we named it. And basically what it is it's a processing of people. It's a little bit easier for people to understand what's happening when they're waiting in line to come see an appraiser. We've always prided ourselves in having a very low wait time. Even in our height of our walk-in period that we have, we can get you in to see an appraiser generally within 15 to the max of 30 minutes. Well, this will even help with that. What this does is when you come in and you see somebody, you check in, they put your name into this queue system, and there's a TV within the lobby that has a list of those names, and it shows you what order you are in that particular line. So if you're waiting to see a commercial appraiser, and you have a commercial piece of property, you'll be in a separate line than the residential property owners. What we were having before is we had a lot of confusion, because if you were a commercial property owner or a land property owner, there's only a few appraisers that handle that, and your wait time might be a little bit longer than those that are in residential. So you might see somebody that came in after you get called back before you, and you ever had that happen in a restaurant? You all feel kind of, what's going on here? Why did they pick that person first? Well, this gives you an idea of where you're at and what line you're in, and also how long you've been waiting. This was your check-in time here, right underneath your name. It tells you what your check-in time was, and up in the upper right-hand corner, it tells you what the current time was, so you can see how long it is. This is an example screen. Obviously, the times are not correct on there, but just wanted to show you what it looks like. That's going to help us process people so that we get you back to see an appraiser more efficiently, so you're not having to wait in our lobby too long. All right, this is the main reason I came today. I wanted to get into valuation for the city of Hutto. What's happening on the values within this area. Also wanted to talk about the breakdown. what do we have in the city of Hutto? What breakdown of residential versus commercial, multifamily, etc. Getting into this, the city of Hutto, we have 80% of the value that's in the city of Hutto is associated with residential properties. You probably imagine that because Hutto is primarily residential, but this is the value associated with what's here. So 80% of the value is residential, but we have 11% of the value that's commercial, and then about 7% is land, and just about 1% is multifamily. Multifamily would be apartment complexes or duplexes, etc. This is an interesting next slide. Look at the 80% that's on this slide, which is value, and this is the number of improved parcels that we have in Hutto. And so when I say an improved parcel, that's something that has a building on it, right? 97% of the properties within the city of Hutto are improved with homes. So that is what we have in the city of Hutto. There are lots of homeowners and homes within this community. The city of Hutto residential value, it has grown over time, as you can imagine. There's been lots of new homeowners come into place, lots of new homes built in this area. And so back in 2006, you can see we were at about $340 million, and then it rises all the way to 2010, about $683. And the preliminary numbers for 2011 is around 690. That little bit of white that you see at the top of each of those columns is associated with what we call E-state code. That just means that it's a home on over 20 acres. Obviously, within the city limits, there's not too many of those, and that's why the number is very small, or the portion of the column is very small. This is another trend that I wanted to get here at the appraisal district, and that was what is happening with values on a year-to-year basis. How many properties are going up? How many properties are going down? How many are staying the same? We reappraise on an annual basis. Every single year we look at the appraisal of all properties within our county. And so this shows you, on homes anyway, what's happened through the years with residential properties. You can see back in 2007, the blue line indicates that those homes went up by more than 1,000. The red line indicates those homes decreased by more than 1,000 during that year. And then the green line is those that stayed within about 1,000 of their prior year's value. And you can see that these lines converge. Back here in 2007, we had much more properties that were going up than were going down. They come back together, or closely together, in 2008. And then they split back apart the opposite direction. They basically switch, or flip-flop, in 2009, where more of the properties were actually decreasing than were increasing. And that trend has actually continued throughout the past 3 years now, 2009, 10, and now our notice values on our 11 have gone out the same way. What this is a trend of is just the general economy out there. I was mentioning earlier that market values have started to trend downwards over the past few years, and you're seeing that in a reflection of the number of homes that are in Williamson County and what's happening on their values. The trend, basically in a pie chart, same chart you just saw before, but just for 2011 on notice values, is that about 67% of the homes within Hutto, city of Hutto, went down in value, with about 19% increasing and about 14% staying within 1,000 of their last year's number. City of Hutto commercial value. There's a little bright spot here. 2006 through about 2009, we were raising value, and this is both because of new improvements that were in the city of Hutto as well as existing values. There was a little bit of a dip in 2010 on value, from about 90 million down to about 88 million. But then in 2011, you can see that our notice values have gone out at about 97 million, which is actually an increase even over the 2009 numbers that were out there. So our notice values on commercial properties are looking positive. We have seen some commercial growth. We actually saw some sales throughout the county in late 2010 and early 2011 on some commercial properties that we realized we needed to move values up slightly on some of our commercial. And you're seeing that here. Again, the 2011 is a preliminary number. This is as we send out notices. These values will change on both the residential and commercial as protests are filed. They'll start to drop off slightly. So by the time the taxing units receive these, it'll be after most of the protests have been heard, and those numbers will change a little bit. City of Hutto multifamily. This is, again, those duplexes and apartment complexes that would be here. 2006 through 2008, you're seeing that same trend of growth. Drops off through 2010. And 2011 notice values are about the same as what they were in 2010, not much change. This is just a combination chart of all the commercial and also new improvements. You can see the breakdown of the new improvements within commercial. You can see that the growth has been happening within the category. But you can see the difference in the commercial valuation of those new improvements. We had a lot more valuation of new improvements in 2008 than, say, we do now in 2011. This is the same chart that we saw on residential properties, but it deals with commercial properties. So again, the blue line is increasing by more than 1,000, the red line is decreasing by more than 1,000, and the green is within 1,000 of what they were last year again. These, you see, we had that separation. We were increasing more properties than we were decreasing for 2007 and 2008. And then you can see that they came together in 2009. So the values, we started seeing a little bit more decreases, and the increases and decreases about matched. They also matched for 2010. You can see that they went up a little bit, but that just means less properties stayed the same. So we changed more properties, but we had an equal number, a fairly equal number that went up or down. And now you're seeing that split again, where we've had more properties in the commercial sector that have gone up than have gone down. This is that same pie chart we saw in the residential, just with commercial. And you can see that it's almost exactly opposite. We had 67%, I believe, on the residential that were going down. We have 72% of the commercial that are actually going up within this area. And 25% that are decreasing by more than 1,000. This is just a breakdown of your commercial value. What do you have out there? This is by parcel count. So if you want to know the types of commercial buildings you have within City of Hutto, this gives you a nice breakdown on a percentage basis of what you have. So we have about 26% here that are office, about 20% that are industrial, about 30% are retail, and then you have a service category, which is going to include automotive, etc., in that category, about 12%. I want you to see the difference in these three slides and how these pieces of the pie change. This next is by value. You can see that the industrial, go back to the previous slide, by parcel count was 20%, and now by value they're only 16%. Although retail is 45% by value, and on the previous slide they were only 30%. Retail is more valuable than industrial, and so you're seeing that change as we go from one chart to the next. The next chart is by square footage. This is another interesting chart. The fire chief isn't here today, but the fire chief may be interested in what kind of square footage we have in each type of property or commercial property that's within the City of Hutto. The square footage you can see on the retail is quite a bit more, and industrial is quite a bit more than what it was in value. You see the industrial, excuse me, we go back to, value here. It is 16.5% in value. You go forward, it's 30% in the way of square footage, because on a price per square foot basis, industrial property is not as valuable as, say, retail. Next we have is a land breakdown. The white piece of the pie or slice of the pie is our rural vacant land, and the green slice of the pie is our lot values, basically. These are vacant lots, either commercial or residential. And the white is just rural farmland or vacant land that's out there. So that's the breakdown by value of what we have in the City of Hutto. And this is the City of Hutto land value in millions. This is a little bit of a deceiving chart, because as you, this can be affected by both annexation and also development. Because as you develop properties, obviously the vacant land that's out there shrinks because you're putting improvements on them. But as you annex properties, the total valuation that's out there can increase because you're bringing more into the City of Hutto. So this can be affected by both, and you won't see the same trends within this particular chart as you do the others. But as you can see in these last 2 years, it looks like it's flattened out at about 43.29 million on the vacant land, and on the rural vacant land around 12.5 million. This is the total market value in millions for the City of Hutto. The total market value, you can see, was growing from 2006 to about 2008, very similar to what we saw on the different slides for either residential or commercial. Then it dipped in 2009 and is back up for 2010, and now 2011 preliminary, we're seeing an increase on total market value. Now this again is a combination. This is not just existing value. As I pointed out a while ago on residential, many of the existing values went down. This is a combination of new improvements, commercial and residential. So the total combined value of all that's in the roll has actually done this fluctuation that you see here. The number of new residential improvements, boy, look at 2007 in the City of Hutto. You think that was a growing year? 831 new residential improvements within the City of Hutto in 2007. can see it was around the 600s in 5 and 6, and then that has dropped off. This trend has been continuing throughout the county. If you look at the county as a whole, we had almost 8,000 new improvements in 07, and it's dropped off dramatically since that point. But what I will say, in the county as a whole, we still had about 2,800 new improvements last year. It's a very positive sign for the Williamson County as a whole. We are still growing. I can tell you right now that there are many counties within the state and thousands of counties within the United States that would switch places with us in a heartbeat, because they right now are completely stagnant. They haven't grown at all. You don't see any new improvements or new residential, new commercial, or anything going on because the market is so depressed. But you can tell that investors are still interested in our county because they're still building. So that is a very positive sign. Commercial new improvements, we didn't have but one new improvement this past year, but you can see they follow the same chart as what we were seeing before on the residential. Same peak, and they drop off as time goes by into the most recent years. All right, this is the final chart here. This basically just gives you an idea of the city of Hutto's values on what they've done from year to year. The blue is existing property values, ones that we already had in place the prior year. The green is going to be new improvement value for new construction. And then the red is the difference in taxable value from the prior year. As you can see, the difference in taxable value was growing each year up until 2009, and you see that it dropped. And the reason it dropped is because existing property values went down dramatically that year. But now they're back up. In 2010, the total value went up, but it's because we had new improvements as well, and existing went up. And then it's about, I would say, almost flat. After the end of the protest season, we filed all the protests, we finalized them. It's going to be slightly up over last year, but pretty well flat in comparison with where it has been. That is all I have for you this morning. Is there any questions or? Yes, sir.
Yeah. Alvin, what is the location for the Hutto area that you're including, the DJ or?
That is just within the city limits of Hutto.
City limits of?
City limits of Hutto, yes, sir.
So that includes agriculture within the city limits?
Yes.
Okay, but not outside?
Not outside.
What information might you have on outside agriculture?
I do have these same slides for the county as a whole. As a whole. I have not broke it out, I don't believe, for the school district of Hutto. So if you wanted to know just in this specific area, I haven't broken out that far. I can do that, but I don't have it in a slide. But what I can tell you is that it's been fairly similar, other than the fact that cities annex and they grow and so there's a little bit different there. But if you look at the county as a whole, ag value, obviously ag acreage is shrinking as we develop more of it, but ag value that's been out there has been relatively level as far as the agricultural special valuation, but the land itself has been fluctuating up in prior years. In the last couple of years, it's kind of leveled off in the valuation of vacant land, and for the most part in the county. That obviously is a general statement. There are specific areas that are going up and other areas that are going down.
I've seen fewer protests this year just because of decrease in home values.
It's too early to tell. Yeah, it's too early to tell. Our protest deadline is the end of this month, so we'll know more then. My speculation is that we'll see similar as to what we did last year. We did have a drop-off, obviously, from not increasing values from 2009 or 2008 to 2009. We had a drop-off. 2009 to 2010, we had another drop-off. It was down to about a level of 15,000 to 16,000 for 2010, down from a high of about 25,000. So you can see that it has dropped off as values have gone down. I anticipate more than likely it being level for this year as to last year. Yes, sir.
I'm interested in that sales comparison grid. Do you have to file a protest in order to take a look at that?
Unfortunately, yes. There are there's legislation in place that prevents us from giving you sales before you file a protest. I do not like that. If it were up to me, I'd put them on the website. The reason I say that is because it's transparent. It lets you know what's happening in the marketplace in your particular neighborhood. If you wanted to know what the sales are within your neighborhood, I think you have a right to see that. Unfortunately, there's laws in place that don't let me do that. So what you have to do is you have to file that protest in order to receive those sales comparables back. I would rather you not file the protest because it's less I would have to deal with, honestly, at our office too. I just want to be able to give you the information. Yes,
Alvin, what was the comparisons you showed up there on the screen? Was that just for the sample you're sending out? You showed a comparison grid up there?
A comparison grid of what property values are done? I'm sorry?
Property values.
Property values, the one that had the line graph that was going up and
No, you
down?
had comparables of property.
Oh, the grid itself,
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's following what uses.
Right, that grid itself, you have to file a protest online to receive that one, or come in the office to see that one. And that's what I was just referring to. Unfortunately, there was a House bill back in the 2009 legislation that I believe was House Bill 2188 that actually limited the amount of information we could give out without an actual protest on file. Like I said, I would love to be able to give out more. We've developed our website and our maps, and you're going to see some really fabulous things in the coming years on what we can do with our maps out there. But until we can give you access to that sales information, it's going to be a little difficult for you to understand. We're even planning on doing some things like letting you know which property sold, but we just can't give you the sale price. Just doing what we can to give the information out, but we can't give it all, unfortunately. Yes, Mike.
Appraisal cap bills, I know there was a few early on in the session, and you heard anything more about anything else being trying to sneak in at the end here?
I know there were plenty of them out there, and as there always are. I have not seen any that have made it out far enough to be able to project what's going to happen at the end. We're still waiting, as I think the school district representative a while ago mentioned, on a lot of those bills to finalize. We don't know what's going to happen at this point. I do know that we'll have continued disabled veterans legislation. There were almost everybody in the House and Senate filed something on that, so there'll be some more exemptions placed on surviving spouses. That was one that I know that will be out there. But as far as the cap itself, if it's going to drop from 10 to 5, 5 was the prominent bill that was out there. Don't know yet. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Those figures include lakeside statement, right?
There's a little interest in that. I'm not sure if they do or not. I can make sure of that when I get back to the office. Because it was a recent annexation, they may have been coded. This report was done last week.
It looked like your 2011 number did.
It must have
the market value.
included Lakeside. We just coded those within the last 2 weeks, and so I wasn't sure if the time that these reports were ran were reflective of the Lakeside estates or not. But if you'd like to know, I can definitely get that for you. I can give you my email address, and we'll email back and forth the details. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you for your time.
And we'll remind everybody that this presentation will be posted on the EDC's website this afternoon under resources. So if you want to go back and look at some details of those charts, it will be available for everyone. I appreciate everyone being here this morning. Obviously a busy and exciting time here in Hutto. I remind everybody, if you're like me and you didn't go vote last week, to go vote on Saturday. I'll be watching to see if you're there. Actually, I'll be over in precinct 424, which is my task, so I won't know if you're here. So we thank you for coming, and we'll see you at the same time next month.